Hi folks, Roland Martin here for the Fish Brain Tip of the Day, and that is, what's my recommended Carolina rig? Now, a Carolina rig, first of all, is nothing more than a weight separated by a swivel, a leader of 2 to 4 feet long, a hook and a worm. Okay, that's the basic of it, but there's a lot more to it than that. First of all, you need the right rod. I recommend at least a 7-foot rod, because remember, you're throwing leaders up to 4 and 5 feet long, and you need a long rod for that. But it's an open water situation. You want to throw it a long ways. You need a big, heavy, almost a flipping stick type of rod. I use a 7-foot favorite rod. It's just actually a heavy action worm rod is what it is. I have that coupled up with 20-pound fluorocarbon. Now, 20-pound fluorocarbon, let me explain. If I go to break this whole rig off, I want the leader to break, not the main line to break. So the main line is a 20-pound test line, where the leader is a 14 or 17-pound line. So when I get hung up, I'm going to break this off, and I don't lose that expensive weight. Now, that's an expensive weight. That's actually a tungsten filled with a rattle in it. It's a very expensive weight. It has a rattle inside the tungsten weight. It's a 1 ounce, and I have that on a glass bead, which kind of clacks and makes noise on a swivel, on a heavy-duty swivel. And I tie all these knots a Palomar knot. I tie the Palomar knot here, and the Palomar knot down on the hook. Now let's talk about the worm for a second. You got to match the hook to the worm. This is a big worm, so I'm using a big hook. If I were using a small little Cinco worm, only half that size, I'd use a much smaller hook. Okay, I'm coming through the head of the worm. Now here's one thing that you can do with a Carolina rig that you wouldn't normally do with a regular Texas rig. And a regular Texas rig, you'd come into the worm like this and it'd be real weedless, and it wouldn't get hung up. You don't get hung up very much with a Carolina rig, so you can just barely skin hook that hook, and so it's just barely, it's not real weedless, but you don't read it real weedless because it's so light on the bottom, it doesn't get hung up very much. But by skin hooking it like that, you have a much better hookup ratio than ever before. Okay, for a reel, I like a high-speed reel. This is a good heavy-duty casting reel, and I'm throwing the Carolina rig much like I do a regular worm. I throw it out there, and I'm dragging it on the bottom. Don't hop it, don't pull it, don't jump it. You slowly drag it. You keep contact with the weight on the bottom the whole time. You can feel for the gravel, you can feel for the mussel bars, you can feel for the mud, you can feel for the sand. And the key to Carolina fishing is you can always determine the type of bottom. For example, if you're fishing shell beds in these southern lakes, that's the pattern, shell beds or mussel beds. You can feel that by dragging. Don't hop it, just drag it slowly. When they hit it, you'll feel the tap. Just drop the rod to a low position and set the hook, and son, you've caught yourself a Carolina rig fish. That's the Fish Brain Tip of the Day.